to the pavement.
There it goes. Hello, everybody. We're talking today with Ray Felton, the ranger at Sadlers Creek Park, and we want to talk with him today, especially about the forest management project and the status on it, why we're doing this, and sort of the direction on it. Ray, how you doing?
They doing good. Good evening, everybody. I've got a few different points to go over for what we have going on for the project here, and at the end of it, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions. But I should cover a good bit of what we have going on with this. It goes back to when I started working here 2.5 years ago. I noticed a lot of the forest was unhealthy. There were a lot of Virginia pines that were broken and fallen over. I was just kind of like, well, we'll see how this goes. Just wanted to continue to work on getting the park going towards a long-term sustainable direction. And then as we continue to have more and more trees fall here on the park, maybe that we're going to have to make some type of change in our management strategy for the forest. We spent just in the storm last year, we spent 16 days straight cleaning up just the picnic area, and with our limited staff, just 3 full-time employees and a few part-time employees and campground hosts, we just don't have the staffing on hand to clean up those types of storm incidents. So we wanted to see what we could do to get it taken care of. And we don't own the park as the State Park Service. The Corps of Engineers owns the park. So all big projects and everything that we do here go through the Corps of Engineers for their approval for the project. So I contacted the Corps of Engineers office, and they sent their forester over, and the forester took a look at the property to see kind of what was going on with the forest here. And it's like, it definitely needs thin. It's needed thinning for quite a while. And he set up and got a plan together for the different sections of the park based on the type of tree, whether it's predominantly Virginia pine, which is going to be mostly cut, or their loblolly pines, which are going to be thinned or left, depending on the density of that tree species in that area.
Can you describe the difference between the trees and why? I know Virginia, I know from walking over there, because I see the difference, but some people may not understand the difference and why we want to cut the Virginia pines.
The loblolly pines are more of a straight trunk on the trees. They mostly will have just one single trunk, and the trunk doesn't split very often. For the Virginia pines, very often you'll see they have a split trunk and a double or triple trunk, and that makes the tree very weak, and it makes it more susceptible to breakage. So when you have any type of a wind incident, or if the tree begins to lean a little bit, you'll see those will just kind of break midway up the tree and fall over. We have a lot of those trees that have fallen over. So even if it was a single trunk tree, they'll be weak kind of midway up the tree. They tend to have a very heavy crown on them. A lot of the trees that you'll see on the park that were Virginia pine trees, they have a lot of little pine cones on them. And if you notice, anytime a tree starts to get under stress, they'll produce a significant amount of pine cones. And when you look at our Virginia pines, they're just covered in pine cones. Yeah. So that's what lets you know that those trees are under stress.
I'm sure a lot of people who have ridden and walked on the trails there have noticed a lot of pine trees down, and those are mostly the Virginia pines that have fallen. Right. Okay.
Yes. So we also contacted the Anderson County Forestry Commission forester and spoke with him about a management strategy for the park before any trees were ever cut. It was months before that. And our strategy for him was like, all right, we'll go ahead and progress towards the thinning. And then when the project is done, assess each forest section by section to see how to go forward, whether you do prescribed burning in that section, or if you replant pine trees in that section that is thinned out or cut. So it'll be pretty soon now, and we'll be able to get back in contact with him and get a strategy section by section. So we got some good resources with them. There's another one of the gentlemen that works with the forestry commissions like 2 miles away down the street that does a lot of their prescribed burns. He's a dozer operator. So we've got a lot of resources that are right here close by. And then with the Corps of Engineers Forester, they've been great. And they've had 2 guys that have been by quite frequently, multiple times during the week to check everything out. But
how far along are we, and what can we expect, I guess, sort of timeline wise, to happen next?
they're going on a good timeline. Say it's May the 15th is their completion deadline. And we talked to the forester this morning with that logging group, and they anticipate it being completed before that. So everything was going good right now. They haven't had a significant amount of slowdowns due to rainfall. So we did have one section where it did rain pretty good, and they weren't able to do anything for like 8 days. So that did slow them down a little bit there. But then we have had a lot of drier weather, so they've been able to make good progress. We got a little rain coming in this week, but it's nothing major, so they should be able to still make good progress.
So what happens? Okay, I know we go in and we see a lot of trees down and a lot of ground damage. So what happens as far as cleanup and the trails? Because we know some of the trails have been damaged, of course. So what's going to be done with the trails?
So what we're doing on the section by section of the park, really for the cleanup in around the day use area, we're supposed to get a bulldozer to come in, and we'll kind of push some of the excess slash is the piles of brush, and get those so that they can be burned off a little bit sooner, closer to our high use areas of the park, so that like closer to the disc golf course and all the picnic area and the nature trail, all that area will be cleaned up a little bit sooner with just regular burn off on burn piles. And then the forest floor clean off, that'll be more of the long-term phase for prescribed burn cleanup. That'll be really a multi-year process to get that all cleaned up. And then the trail renourishment and rebuilding we'll do starting in April the 5th. We have a mini excavator rented that's good for trail size reconstruction. So we have that for a month. So we'll start going through and rebuilding section by section. And as we get completed with one section of trail, we'll open that section and then just keep opening up more and more trail until we have the whole thing opened. So we'll start over on that section between the primitive area and the office, and then work over towards the office. As you go over that way, you'll see pink flagging out through the woods, and I've got that all is set, shot to modern trail constructing grades, and ready to go. So we're ready to move with that. We'll start first by going through with a chainsaw and cutting up the trees that are laying in the way of that, just in small enough sections where I can move them out of the way with the excavator or by hand.
So essentially, I think I recall you saying that rather than rebuilding some of those old trails, you're going to focus on the building of the perimeter trail that will replace some of those old trails. Is that correct?
Some of the existing trail that's here, we already have that permitted through the Corps. So for the new trail, that's not permitted yet. But for the sections that we have already permitted, we're going to go and basically reestablish those sections where a lot of the trees were drug. You can't see where that trail even was because of the kind of the tree debris over the top of it. So what we'll do is go over and just kind of reestablish a better footprint for that trail, so that it is constructed to a modern trail building standard, and it'll be basically in the same footprint that the prior trail was, but it'll have the long-term sustainability built into it. That'll be really nice. And then we have submitted the longer trail plan. That's 8.5 miles of new trail with some sections of existing trail incorporated into that plan. And that's been submitted to the Corps of Engineers. And we'll be waiting to hear something back back from them. We don't know our exact timeline, but yeah, it may be around 3 months or so, but that got submitted to them. So we'll see, hope to hear something back and be able to get some more progress on that. But it'll be good progress getting the trail going section by section, and we're ready to get rolling on that.
It's funny, I was watching a program this weekend about forest management, and it was talking about the time it takes for growth to come in. And you're more familiar with this land here, so how long do you think we'll start to get some undergrowth in the trees with all this clearing?
I've got some seed actually picked up today. I got 500 pounds of grass seed today. So in areas that may be a little bit more steep, or we need to get that soil stabilized faster, we can go ahead and put some seed on that. We're supposed to get some rain this week, so it'll work out pretty well to get some seed. So I had just some rye. So it'll be quickly established things where it needs the most soil stabilization quicker. And then we've got some brown top millet, so it'll be good for wildlife. But really, as soon as you get sunlight on earth, it can start stuff to grow back really immediately, because some seeds can remain dormant in the soil for up to 40 years.
Oh, wow.
So even if you have an area that hasn't been really have anything on it for a long time, you'll have some stuff start to grow back. And there's a lot of the pine seeds that you'll see a lot of seedlings and stuff come up from that pretty quickly, and it'll be it's kind of a matter of how that particular section is managed on whether or not we'll burn through those and burn those out long term if they're Virginia pine, or if that area is predominantly loblolly. But everything that we have come up that is managed would probably be all planted loblolly, so we can just know for sure what's
That was my next question.
what's in there. And it's not a lot of volunteers coming up, because you'll get a lot of the Virginia pines will come back, and we don't want to have them long term to come back and reestablish themselves.
So we're mostly going to plant loblolly pines, right? And,
yes.
We'll put a call out for volunteers to help with that. When you're ready, we can be there. And then there was another question about the deer. What is the impact on the deer during all of this?
The deer basically kind of move away from where they cut at during the day, and then when the guys get done cutting, I see the deer in and amongst the area where they just cut, because you get a lot of different parts of the trees, or various trees that are now on the ground where the deer couldn't reach it before, and they're eating some stuff off of the trees that they just had. But once we get a little bit more of that new growth on there, actually is going to bump up the deer habitat substantially. There'll be a lot more light into the forest floor, so you get way more undergrowth, which is a lot more food. So you're going to see tremendous benefit for species like white-tailed deer and turkey and birds. And where you'll have those wildlife openings, you'll have some sections that'll be managed as a wildlife, like a grassland opening, where you'll have a lot of benefit for birds and rabbits and things like that. And I think that would be great if we could get rabbits on the park. I've never seen a rabbit on the park.
I haven't seen any rabbits.
So that kind of habitat getting in there. So that'll be something that we can kind of see if we can get some new species reestablished. Like we have a lot of history in the park of having turkeys, and all the documentation I've read over time. And since I've been here for 2.5 years, I've only seen one turkey. So definitely turkeys in this area are on the decline. So it would be nice to get a flock of turkeys back on the park again. So that's one goal that we'll see if we can.
Well, I know there's chickens. I've seen the chickens.
yeah, there's a couple of chickens that they run around. So good chicken habitat from there.
All right, everybody. I'm just going to open it up to see if anybody out there has any questions for Ranger Felton.